In combat sports, confidence is not just encouraged, it's expected. Fighters step into the ring carrying the weight of their reputations, their training camps, and the relentless pressure to prove themselves. Trash talk, intimidation, and psychological warfare have long been part of the spectacle. For some athletes, arrogance becomes a weapon meant to break an opponent mentally before the first punch is even thrown. But the fight game has a cruel sense of balance. When confidence turns into overconfidence and arrogance replaces discipline, the ring has a way of delivering instant and unforgettable karma. Over the years, fans have witnessed countless moments where cocky fighters entered the arena convinced of their superiority, only to leave humbled in dramatic fashion. One such moment unfolded in October 2012 during the ONE FC Rise of Kings event. Dutch striking powerhouse Melvin Manhoef stepped into the ring against Japanese veteran Ryo Kawamura. Kawamura approached the fight with an unusual strategy. Strange antics and exaggerated gestures meant to frustrate and confuse Manhoef. He taunted, mocked, and even dropped to one knee mid-exchange before springing back up as if the fight were a performance rather than a battle. For a brief moment, the tactics seemed to work. Kawamura's antics disrupted the rhythm of the fight, forcing Manhoef to hesitate and readjust. But there's a fine line between psychological warfare and outright disrespect. Eventually, Manhoef found his timing. When he did, the punishment came swiftly. A thunderous right hand crashed into Kawamura's chin, instantly wiping away the theatrics. The message was clear. Tricks and games might entertain the crowd, but in combat sports, reality hits harder than any act. Another brutal reminder came in March 2014 at Nitro MMA when Ben Nguyen faced Julian Wallace for the Bantamweight Championship. Even before the fight began, Wallace attempted to assert dominance during the weigh-ins. In a tense face-off, he aggressively shoved his fist into Nguyen's face, trying to intimidate him and provoke a reaction. Nguyen didn't respond with anger. He simply waited. When the cage door closed and the fight began, Nguyen needed only seconds to make his point. Wallace rushed forward with the same confidence he had displayed at the weigh-ins. But within 25 seconds, Nguyen unleashed a devastating combination that ended the fight almost as quickly as it started. Wallace's intimidation tactics meant nothing once the punches started flying. Sometimes arrogance builds long before fight night. In 2006, kickboxing star Badr Hari clashed with Australian fighter Peter Graham during the K1 World Grand Prix. In the weeks leading up to the fight, Hari showed little respect for his opponent. At press conferences, he mocked Graham, calling him amateurish, and even initiated a heated scuffle. The tension between them exploded when they finally met in the ring. The fight was brutal and competitive, but the moment everyone remembers came in the third round. Graham launched a crushing high kick that landed perfectly against Hari's jaw. The impact shattered Hari's jaw in multiple places, leaving him unable to continue and sidelined for nearly a year. The man who had mocked his opponent just days earlier was now forced to face the consequences of underestimating him. Years later, in 2019, another fighter attempted to dominate psychologically before a fight and paid dearly for it. South Korean champion Kwon A-Sol returned to defend his Road FC lightweight title after nearly 2.5 years away from competition. At the press conference, he tried to intimidate challenger Mansour Barnawi with aggressive behavior and loud insults. But when the fight began, the roles reversed instantly. Barnawi wasted no time taking control. Within moments, he dropped the champion, advanced to dominant positions on the ground, and locked in a submission. In the very first round, Kwon was forced to tap. The fighter who had tried to assert dominance before the fight barely had time to mount a defense once the action started. Arrogance inside the ring can be just as dangerous as arrogance outside it. During 2007 K1 World Grand Prix, South Korean fighter Yong-Soo Park faced Japanese veteran Musashi. Early in the fight, Park landed a series of brutal low kicks that sent Musashi crashing to the canvas in visible pain. Sensing victory, Park continued pressing forward aggressively. But fights can change in an instant. Musashi recovered quickly, rose to his feet, and launched a furious counterattack. A vicious combination exploded through Park's guard, flipping the momentum of the fight and reminding everyone watching that a single moment of overconfidence can erase an entire round of dominance. The same lesson unfolded in Glory kickboxing years later. At Glory 66 in Paris, Cedric Doumbé faced rival Aleem Naibi for a heated rematch for the welterweight title. Early in the bout, Naibi landed several illegal strikes to the back of Doumbé's head, creating chaos in the ring and drawing warnings from the referee. But Doumbé didn't forget. When the action resumed, he unleashed one of the most explosive knockouts of his career. A perfectly timed right hand landed flush, dropping Naibi and ending the fight in spectacular fashion. The crowd erupted as Doumbé reclaimed control in brutal style. Sometimes arrogance takes the form of showmanship. During a bare-knuckle fight at Knucklemania in 2021, Brandon Lambert decided to entertain the crowd while fighting Jared Grant. Lambert repeatedly dropped his hands, taunted Grant, and even pointed toward the sky while mocking his opponent. For a while, the theatrics continued. But in the third round, Grant found his opening. A crushing combination, capped by a devastating uppercut to the body, dropped Lambert to the canvas. The showboating stopped instantly. The man who had spent rounds clowning around could no longer stand. One of the most famous examples of arrogance backfiring occurred in Bellator's welterweight Grand Prix tournament. Michael "Venom" Page entered his fight against Douglas Lima with an undefeated record and a reputation for flashy striking and showmanship. During the opening round, Page controlled the pace and repeatedly danced around the cage after landing strikes. The crowd enjoyed the spectacle, but Lima remained calm. Then, in the second round, everything changed. Lima unleashed a crushing leg kick that instantly crippled Page's movement. As Page stumbled backward, Lima followed with punches that ended the fight and shattered the undefeated aura surrounding him. The dancing stopped. The reality of the fight game had arrived. Another dramatic example occurred when Indonesian fighter Theodoros Ginting faced Windry Patalima. Ginting dominated the early rounds, overwhelming his opponent with aggressive attacks. Confident he had the fight under control, he began mocking Patalima, gesturing and taunting him during exchanges. But arrogance has a way of blinding fighters to danger. In the third round, Patalima saw his opportunity. A perfectly timed strike landed cleanly, sending Ginting crashing to the canvas and silencing the crowd that had watched him celebrate moments earlier. The fighter who was mocking his opponent was now the one lying on the mat. Showboating has doomed many fighters, but few are as memorable as Ardalan Sheikhaleslam's fight against legendary kickboxer Andy Sauer. Throughout the bout, Sheikhaleslam taunted Sauer relentlessly. He dropped his hands, smiled after absorbing punches, and even laughed in the middle of exchanges. To many observers,